On the night that Russell Westbrook was making his return to Oklahoma City, Kendrick Perkins and Kevin Durant got into a heated Twitter debate. Many people chimed in on this beef between the two former teammates, but one person actually went on to give Perkins a history lesson on why he is completely wrong about Durant. That guy is Gilbert Arenas, and he wrote a whole Instagram post on how Perkins, being a former hooper and all, should have put more thought into what he said. So in this video, I'm going to show why short-minded thinkers are right about Kevin Durant and why Gilbert Arenas is completely off base with his recollection of the events that led to KD's exit from the Thunder. The problem that Arenas probably has with Perkins is that Perkins told KD that he took the coward's way out into getting his 2 rings, and he wanted to show Perkins how that wasn't the case. However, Arenas goes on a rant that at best can be described as selective memory and rewriting history. Now, the post that he made on Instagram is pretty long, but he mainly says 3 things. He says that the Thunder were regressing, that KD needed to leave the Thunder in order to cement his legacy, and third, and this is the part I have the most problem with, that the Warriors were his only free agent option. So let's start with his first point, where he says that the Thunder weren't progressing. He starts off this post by saying that the young Thunder core that lost to the Heat in the finals had promise, and that if that team had stayed intact, then the Durant, Westbrook, Harden core could have been even better than the Curry, Draymond, Clay core. Okay, this point is insane. For starters, it demeans just how good the Curry, Draymond, and Clay core is. Not how good each of those individual players are, but just how well that core gels together. Also, we can see now in hindsight how these 3 MVPs would never have been able to coexist. But that point aside, alright, the Thunder traded Harden in 2012, and you can argue that it was a bad move. However, Arenas goes on to argue that because of this decision, the Thunder were moving backwards in progress. So, first of all, let's dispel this notion. I don't know what Arenas thinks progress really means, but let's look at the record. With Harden on the team, the Thunder went on to 2 conference finals and 1 NBA final, and when he left, well, it's not like they fell off a cliff or something. They still went on to 2 conference finals. So the only difference before and after Harden left was that 1 finals appearance, and excuse me, but I think that falls more on the players for not getting them over the hump than it does on the organization. Secondly, I think you can make the argument that the Thunder were actually improving at that time. The last year that KD was on the Thunder, the Warriors were the first seed in the Western Conference in which they won 73 games. The Spurs were the 2nd seed and won 67. The Thunder were the team right after them with 55 wins. So this was a team which was so close to nearly having 2 teams that won 70 games in the same conference, and the Thunder nearly beat both of them. I mean, they were 1 game away from beating the 73 win team after having already overcome the 67 win team. And it's not like the Thunder were meeting expectations while doing this, they were exceeding them. For both the Spurs and Warriors series, the Thunder were the underdogs. In the Spurs series, it was widely predicted that the Spurs would win. And in the Warriors series, everyone was going with the Warriors as well. So to come within 1 game of nearly beating both of those behemoths in your conference and making the NBA Finals, I mean, I'm not looking at that as moving backwards. I'm definitely looking at that as progress. The second thing that he says is that KD needed to leave the Thunder in order to win a ring and to cement his legacy. He says that you guys, whoever you guys are, sit on TV with pushing rings and legacy down fans' throat. So KD is a free agent at 27 years old with a sheet that looks like this. 7-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, 4-time scoring champ, 1-time MVP, 2-time All-Star MVP, and 2-time gold medalist. There's not 5 NBA players in history that can say they were first ballot Hall of Famers by 27. The only thing needed as an individual player was ring and finals MVP. Now, let's look at his opinion. Wait, what? Hold on a second. How are you transitioning so quickly into the next point? You go from saying that he needs to win a ring to automatically looking at what other team he can choose. You're not going to talk about how much responsibility he needs to accept for not being able to get that ring in finals MVP with his current team. Is a guy who blew a 3-1 lead in the conference finals supposed to think that he's owed a team that can win him a ring? Or does he look back at it and say, my bad, I gotta get it next time. These are things that Arenas just glances over. I mean, why do you even need a ring and finals MVP to cement your legacy? I thought you said that he's already a Hall of Famer by now. He could have done what Dirk did. Dirk also lost the first NBA Finals that he went to, but he stuck with his team and then eventually went on to win a championship with them. And you can ask Dallas what they think of his legacy. So I don't agree that KD needed to get a ring and Finals MVP to cement his legacy. 1, he could have eventually won a ring with that team, and 2, I agree, his legacy was already cemented as one of the best players to play basketball. Now let's look at the third point, which is essentially the main part of Arenas' argument, that no, joining the 73-win Warriors team was not a weak move, it was his only choice. He says that the only 2 teams that could give him those 2 boxes were the Warriors and the Cavs. But why? Why were they his only options? You're telling me this guy, one of the best players to play basketball, can only lead 2 teams to a championship? But anyway, we'll get back to that later. He goes on to say that the Cavs weren't making a move, so the only team that was left was the Warriors. As someone checking boxes off his NBA career, that was the smartest move he could have made. Alright, smartest move, like, we'll see about that. But for now, let's see if it's true if the Warriors were his only option. Like, this is a guy who is... Wait, what is he? Yeah, that's what he is. You're telling me that he can't join any other team other than those 2 and lead them to a ring? I mean, what does that say about him as a player? What does that say about him, about his place amongst the greats? Says a lot, doesn't it? In fact, I think this is more of a diss towards Kevin Durant than it is supporting him. How can you be a Hall of Famer at 27 years old and yet have a very limited set of circumstances under which you can win a title? So no, I don't think that KD couldn't lead any other team to a title. I don't think that Golden State and Cavs were the only option. There were many other teams that KD could have joined that could have beaten both the Warriors and the Cavaliers. He could have gone to Portland and formed a big 3 with Dame and CJ. Like, that could do some damage. Or he could have gone and joined the Clippers. That would have been difficult financially because he would have had to take a large pay cut. But hey, if the only thing that's important is ring and finals MVP, then maybe you can take a pay cut and join them and cement your legacy. Or what about joining the 67-win Spurs? He could have teamed up early on with Kawhi Leonard. LaMarcus Aldridge would have been there, and that would have been their big 3. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili were still on the team. They had great role players in Danny Green and Patty Mills, and Pop was the coach. You're telling me he couldn't lead this team to a ring? No, I don't buy it. I don't buy that the Thunder were regressing. I don't buy that he had to leave the Thunder in order to cement his legacy. And I don't buy that the Warriors were his only choice. At the end of the day, he had a lot of options and a lot of teams that he could have joined. He met with 6 teams in his free agency, but he chose to join the Warriors. So it wasn't the smartest move that he made. It was the easiest one.